Hi! So, I got COVID. Am I allowed to say that at the start of a video? I don't know. There just seems to be a reoccurring coincidence where I get COVID whenever I rebrand this channel, and it's kinda suspicious. Like, what's up with that? But then again, I did start this channel when I got my first vaccine shot for the virus, so maybe it's just a curse I have to live with at this point. I have no clue. That's obviously not what you're here for, so let's just move on. Welcome to the first ever installment of Design With Me, where I design characters and... You get the gist. Let's address the elephant in the room now. I redesigned my persona. Again. You might be wondering, why? This is your 5th unnecessary rebrand on this channel alone. What's going on? Why are you suddenly a beanie baby and no longer a vampire? And my answer would be, silly? I'm being silly, Your Honor. Okay, but seriously, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. If you're an old viewer of mine, you would know I used to look like this guy. Or this guy. I don't like this guy. He looks like an asshole. So we're not gonna talk about him. Anyway, I discarded these characters because I lost my connection with them. I no longer felt like they represented who I am. And that is a problem that occurs very often with me when it comes to creating personas. I struggle immensely with expressing myself, especially as a neurodivergent person. I have the tendency to correlate my interests with my whole identity, and since my interests change so often, so does my personality, basically. Now, that sounds bad enough as is, but when you mix in the fact that I'm trans and I identify as alterhuman, specifically constellic, which essentially means I hoard identities involuntarily due to what I can only assume is autism, things get even more complicated. For the longest time, I heavily associated myself with vampires. I love vampires a lot. I have an unexplainable connection to this fictional species, and it's become a part of me. I mean, it's literally in my username, Vampstil. My constell is vampires, hence why I'm Vampstil. Genius wordplay, I know, Shakespeare 100 IQ plays moment. But, being a vampire is all I've ever been known as during this channel's lifespan. That's what I'm trying to say here. I was the commentator with the dark aesthetic, cringe-looking vampire who cussed at Colleen and talked shit about a Roblox game. That's basically my only legacy on this platform, and while I don't mind that at all, I've moved past the whole vampire fixation, and overall, I just don't feel like I'm being myself online anymore. When I started this channel, I wanted my content to be mainly art-related and stray away from drama as much as possible. And while most of my old content was art-related, there were times where I did drama videos, and while I think they're great, some like the Colleen one was too vitriolic. At some point, I made a second channel for a specific fandom, and after everything that I've seen in that fandom, I kinda just snapped. It sounds stupid, I know, but I started to realize I was contributing nothing good online, and I just became a negative Nancy. It was not good for my health, scrolling through social media and seeing discourse left and right. It's not nice, especially when you're obsessed with it like I was. I know this all sounds irrelevant to the topic, but I associated my old personas with this negativity, and I want that negativity to go away. I want to start anew and just focus on silly stuff like drawings, my OCs, my interests. You know, just things I like to talk about. Because as much as I'm an opinionated person and I'm not afraid to say what I think, I lost sight of who I am and what I want to create. While I don't mind being known for my rant videos, they're the reason I have a platform after all, I still wish people knew me as an artist who's really passionate about his work. And I'm sure a lot of creators share the same sentiment. I also realized I tried too hard to stick to one thing. I tried to be organized and cool like the rest, and it just felt inauthentic. So I designed this guy. His name's Nico, and I'm gonna walk you through my design process for them today. As I've alluded to in the previous segment, I've had a lot of personas in the many years I've been online, some of which I don't even have pictures of anymore. I had a sheep persona, I had a demon persona, I had a clown, a bunny, a cat, and so much more. I'd say most of them, aside from the vampire ones, were drastically different from one another. The only similarity that they all had was the fact they were inspired by my fixations. The demon, for example, I had them when I was very interested in demonology. I was researching the kings of hell, the dukes, the princes, etc. Lil me thought they were really cool, so I made my own demon. Unbeknownst to me that I already had real demons to deal with, like my crippling unmedicated ADHD and anxiety, but this isn't a therapy session, nor is this a cringy, edgy Instagram reel, so I won't open up about that. I brought these old personas up because I'm gonna steal aspects of them for Nico here, while also learning from my old mistakes, for lack of a better word. First things first, I want this new persona to be fun and versatile. One of the main aspects I struggled with my old characters was the fact they can only fit in one box. They always had a specific aesthetic to them that I couldn't change, and I don't like that anymore because I'm not like that. I'm a fat ass. I hoard aesthetics like crazy. I can't fit into one teeny tiny box, no matter how hard I try to stuff myself into one. It's just not possible. So, how do I achieve versatility? By making this idiot into a ball-jointed doll. This is very indulgent, I know, but hear me out before you insult me and call me names. I really like dolls. I've loved dolls ever since I was a kid, and this year I've been collecting them. It's one of those interests that constantly stick to me. It can go away, but it comes back with vengeance every time. AKA, I see funny doll, wallet go. So, I thought, what if I made Nico into a doll, since dolls are so customizable? Like, you can do anything with your dolls. I was gonna make a Barbie girl reference, but then the undress me line made me shrivel up and die, so never mind. I know the thought process behind this is so stupid, but when I started sketching the first draft of Nico's design, it felt right for him to have doll joints. It felt like I could easily pick apart their body parts, replace them, and also give them new clothes. You get me? Are you still with me? Okay, cool. Unlike my last persona, I want this fella to look more like me in real life, but glorified. So I gave him an old hairstyle I had, but with more fluffy, long bangs. His body type is curvy, and a bit on the petite side. He's also short like I am, and yeah, fun stuff. I don't know the pace of this speed paint, but I'm sure you noticed I gave Nico bunny ears. Bunnies are my all-time favorite animal, aside from cats, and I thought it would be silly if Nico was a bunny like my 2020 persona. You might also notice I gave him horns. I'm unsure if they're meant to be ram horns, demon horns, or something else entirely. I just thought the horns would be cute, so I added them in. This is where things get messy and confusing. I'm sure you can tell. You might be wondering, why did I add bunny ears and horns to this character? Well, aside from thinking it's cute, I thought it would be neat if I encapsulated most of my biggest interests into one conglomeration. Why? Because that's just me in a nutshell. Lots of interests packed into one silly little guy. Is it cringe? Yes. Is it convoluted? Of course. probably worse than Five Nights at Freddy's lore. But it is so authentically me, and I love it. Next up are the clothes. The way I dress in real life is very flexible. I can dress goth, I can dress like it's White Girl Autumn, I can dress cute too. In fact, I'd say I primarily dress cute or goth, and I can dress like a hobo too. We love a man with style. As much as I love dark aesthetic fashion, I wanted to stray away from that vibe and go completely whimsy. The concept art doesn't really show that, since I just wanted to get a general idea of what I wanted the finalized design to be. I wanted Nico to have really fluffy leg warmers as a reference to sheep fur. I wanted him to have a cardigan because I love cardigans. I also really like the idea of having ribbons at the side of his sleeves. I'm not sure if there's a technical fashion term for these kinds of sleeves, but I adore them, and I think they add a lot to an outfit. Oh, also shorts. I wanted shorts in the finalized design too. Now that we have the first concept art, let's draw another concept to try to refine what we have. With this concept, I decided to use a more simple body sketch. It makes the whole designing process faster for me, and you'll likely see this the more I make these sorts of videos. So that's fun. Anyway, immediately you'll notice I didn't change anything about the hair, the horns, and the bunny ears, which I added on later in the Speedpaint. I added more details to the cardigan and gave it a cloud pattern at the bottom, as well as breast pockets with stars in the middle. This was not what I had in mind when I started concept work for Nico. The whole cloudy space aesthetic was something I thought of after the first draft, and I have a little fun fact about this. I love space. I love it a lot. It was one of my first special interests as a kid, and I thought it would be lovely to incorporate it into this persona. I've always had a somewhat nighttime vibe to most of my characters, so I was like, shit, might as well. But this is not the only aesthetic I would give Nico. It's only his main aesthetic, and I'm not gonna make every single future outfit of his space themed. Like I said, I want to move past the whole putting myself into one box, so expect a video of me making outfits for him soon. Maybe, hopefully. I had a vision with the shorts, but it didn't work out, as you can see. At first, I wanted it to be fancy and have lace at the bottom, but then I quickly realized it didn't synergize well with the cardigan at all, so I changed it to normal looking shorts. Yay! That looks better. I kept the leg warmers from the first concept, but made them both the same rather than mismatched. I also changed the sneakers to Mary Jane's, which, tangent, I always called Mary Jane's school shoes, and I never understood why they were named after a lady until a few years ago. I learned it was named after a cartoon character from a comic strip in the 1900s. I know, completely irrelevant, but I thought it was a cool tidbit to share. Under the cardigan, I drew a simple shirt with a Peter Pan collar. I think it's considered Peter Pan. I'm not sure, since the fact it's also a high collar is making me confused, but my point is, simple shirt with collar, black bow around it with a star in the middle. You get me? Anyway, after that, I just added in random little accessories to make Nico look more detailed. You could sort of say it's my attempt at making him more Decora themed, but I wouldn't necessarily say his outfit's Decora. At least not hardcore Decora, which, by the way, it's so cool. I love the clutter, I love the colors, and I'd say Nico's design is definitely influenced by it. But anyway, here comes the flat colors. I don't usually do this with concept art, and that is a big rookie mistake. Laying down the flat colors during the concept process makes your life so much easier. Like, trust me, it's an essential step, but I don't listen to my own advice because I'm stupid, I'm a hypocrite, and I'm sorry, I think? Regardless, I'm glad I did this with Nico's concept art because I would have been fucked making finished art of him. He's my most colorful persona, and yeah, he looks neat. I'm happy with this final draft, so let's move on to the actual drawing. There isn't much to say in this segment, if I had to be honest. I didn't take too long to draw Nico here because I created my channel assets before this. Drawing him is basically pure muscle memory to me now, which I'm glad about, since his design's pretty complicated. But I do have more tidbits to share about this persona, so no worries. I will be talking about them to ensure this segment isn't pure silence. I forgot to mention this in the last chapter, but the Beanie Baby tag was a last-minute addition that I adore. If you don't know what Beanie Babies are, they're these really popular plushies that were made by Ty in the 1990s. A lot of people collected these during that time thinking they'd be worth a pretty penny. And some are worth a pretty penny, to be fair. The whole collecting process for these is so wild to learn about, though. Like, I've seen people having tubs filled with these plushies, and the actual stuffed toys themselves were protected in layers. It's crazy stuff, and I love it. I personally didn't own any of the original Beanie Babies, but I did own the modern ones with the big sparkly eyes. This change in the plushies was pretty controversial, but I like everything Ty has to offer. They're my favorite plushie brand because the plushies I own from them are very sentimental to me. Due to being mixed race, I lived in the Philippines for most of my life and didn't really know my grandparents from my father's side since they live in the UK. They sent a lot of parcels to me during my birthdays and such, and they'd always include Ty plushies and loom bands, both of which I loved so much. Like, my grandparents are the sweetest people ever, and unfortunately, I couldn't get to know them well since they passed away after I visited them. I know this sounds like such a dark topic, but I brought it up because it's super important to me and it's a part of Nico's design. Having the Beanie Baby tag on my persona isn't just me showing how much I love stuffed toys. It's also a way to keep the memory of my grandparents and my biggest passion, art. It's such a small detail, something you probably won't even point out in Nico's design, but it holds so much sentimental value to me, and it's one of the reasons why I think this persona feels more authentic compared to any other persona I had in the past. Making Nico has been such a pleasant experience. It feels like I rediscovered a lot of my interests and learned a lot of things about designing characters that feel real. Like, adding details to your characters that have sentimental value to you, or them, makes them feel more alive. It feels like they're a real person with a real story, and I love that so much. Also, I had to change the Ty and the Beanie Baby tag to V6, which is a reference to how many times I've rebranded on this channel. It's basically short for version 6. I want to talk about the little clip in Nico's hair, the rainbow clip. It's the trans flag colors, of course. It's a pretty obvious detail when you know who I am, but I still like it a lot and think it's genius. There's just something very sweet to me about having your pride flag represented in a character. For the longest time, I've been ashamed of who I was, so just adding stupid color combinations to my persona makes me happy. I feel proud of who I am, and it's nice. Other than that, I don't have much to say anymore. Nico is such a delightful character, and I hope I stick with him for at least a couple months since he's a cutie. He's adorable. I want to throw him and bomb him. Anyway, I'd love to know what your thoughts are about this character. Is he ugly? Does he slay? Do we vibe with them or do we donate them to a Goodwill? You tell me. Expect more design videos to come out soon. I haven't felt this pumped up about video creation in a while, so this content change was a great idea. I'm redesigning a few of my characters. I'm updating them to fit a massive collaborative project I've been working on with a friend, so stay tuned for more. I hope you all have a great week, and I'll see you whenever I reemerge from my coffin. For now, goodbye. Please let the bedbugs bite. They're lonely.